We love a good show just as much as the next person.
The plot, the characters, the twists and turns.
Sometimes it all needs a deeper discussion.
We're two babes just giving the people what they want on
On
mystery,
mystery,
murder,
murder,
and
and
melanin.
melanin.
Hi there, and welcome to Mystery, Murder, and Melanin. I'm your co-host, Yelly.
And I'm your co-host, Harmony.
All right, let's jump right into it. We are covering episode 5 of The Perfect Couple on Netflix.
Yes.
I feel like I say this every time we record, but this episode had so much, but it like really did this
You
time though.
though, it's a lot. I'm loving it. I'm loving this series.
Yeah, so we got a lot to get into. So let's go
Yes, we
ahead
do.
and start off with the fact that Amelia, we know in the last episode, Benji caught her
Yeah.
smacking lips with Shooter. So
Yeah.
this episode, it starts off and she's telling Greer, like, I'm just gonna get a hotel for my family because,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it's kind of awkward for her to be staying in their house, in their
Mm-hmm.
home, be around the family. And everybody pretty much knows what happened. And it's just obviously that's not a good vibe.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that it got around that quickly, but I guess Benji's definitely gonna just like go and tell his mom right away because Amelia's in the kitchen cooking breakfast and just wastes no time in telling Greer like, yeah, I'm sorry, like I'm just gonna
hmm
go get a hotel. And Greer's like, she makes this comment. It's like a very eerie feeling in the kitchen is how I took it. And Greer makes this comment like, you know, basically you thought your shit didn't stink, but she says you're tethered to terra firma, just like the rest of us. I'm like, why? It was just like I felt like such a deep dig for her. Like I felt like she really just like wanted to take a dig at Amelia at that moment.
Yeah. And I felt like Greer was kind of thinking like, she's dealing with her own situation with her own husband doing what
Hmm.
he's been doing. And now her baby boy, well, not the baby, but her baby boy Benji is now
Yeah.
dealing with like the same thing from this woman that he seemingly
Hmm.
thought is like perfect. And she's not
Hmm.
like them and everything. And it's kind of like, well, she's a little bit, she's
Hmm.
a little bit like y'all and not in a
Right.
good
So,
way.
and not in a good way, in the worst of ways. Like, and in the last episode, he was telling Shooter too, like, I will not deal with the cheating.
hmm
He's like, that's one thing I do not want to emulate my parents in. It's like, I'm not just gonna stick around and turn a blind eye.
Yeah. And also during this conversation, Amelia, she asked Greer, where is Tag? And Greer's
Hmm.
like, oh, he had to stay at the police station overnight. So they must have had a reason to keep him. And I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
now Greer,
Yeah.
you know why.
She's been doing a lot, I feel like, to try and point the finger at Tag.
hmm
So it makes me wonder. And so in that same scene, Amelia's like, I'm just trying to get out of Dodge. I'm trying to be out of y'all hair. And Greer lets Amelia know, like, no, you still better be at this book launching because I don't want anyone talking about who's not here, who's here. You
hmm
know, she wants her to save face, come to this party and act like everything's fine.
Yeah. Which I feel like is a very like rich people thing. Not, well,
Hmm.
not even rich people thing. I guess like everybody does that, but especially I feel like rich people because they don't want
It's
anybody in
like
their
a
business.
fake thing. I feel like it's fake. Like if we're not messing with you right now, you can keep your butt at home.
hmm
But I understand, I guess, to you have this huge event happening and you don't want anyone talking
Yeah.
about what ifs or what might be going on.
Yeah. All focus on her and her book. So
Hmm.
we get through that little moment. And
Hmm.
then there is a flashback to the day of like the little welcome party where everybody like shows up at the house. And we see that Merritt and Tag are speaking by the water. And this is when Merritt tells Tag that, she's pregnant because he tries to
Hmm.
like give her a drink. And
Hmm.
she's like, I can't have that. And he pretty much
Hmm.
picks up on it like, oh, like, really? Like, you're really like, what's going on? She's like, yeah, he's acting a little like excited and things like that. But you could kind of tell, I think, that, he's thinking, obviously, because the man's
Hmm.
married.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, you're pregnant.
I feel like he was super fake in this moment.
Yeah.
And I felt like, again, I think Tag is insane for him to be having these affairs
Hmm.
and like being so lovey-dovey with these people. But like in the back of his mind, he's never gonna leave his wife. And so he tells Merritt in that moment, he's like, "That's so beautiful. I love you." And then a minute later, oh, I should get back to the party. I'll go first. Like, how is all of this in the same scenario? I love you. You're beautiful. I just found out you're pregnant. But oh, this is still on the down low. You
Yeah.
wait here while I go back to the party. Like that, it's just insane to me.
Yeah. And when I was watching these different, because there was like multiple flashbacks of this particular kind of like
Yeah.
moment between them. And when I was watching it, I was thinking back to when you had said in the other episode that he's insane. Cause I was like, this is really showing that he's insane because he's like happy and then he like switches and he's like, well, you know how these things go.
Yeah.
Like she's like, oh, you want me to get
He's
an abortion?
deluded.
Like he's like, no, no, but like, how it is. Like essentially, yeah, I want you to, but like, I'm not going to just come out and say,
Yeah. He said everything but saying it.
yeah.
And so, in that initial flashback, at that moment, he's sitting in the police station singing a song to himself.
Hmm.
And then I think this flashback goes back to like him thinking about it because he's singing this song and then he brings up this song to Merritt on the
Hmm.
beach. And that starts that flashback.
Yeah. And so it was just like, I felt like you just learned a lot from that moment. And we'll revisit this. 'Cause like I said, there was multiple flashbacks where it kind of comes back to Tag and Merritt and it just kind of progresses. But yes, he is in the police station and the police actually, they ask him like, the staff, the day of like Merritt's murder, your boat was left out.
Mhm.
What did you do? Why was it left out? Because the staff says that that's basically like your baby. Like you really care about that thing. So why did you leave it out? And he's like, y'all talk to the staff? Like,
Mhm.
duh, there's a
He
murder
was pissed.
investigation. Like, I think he was mad that like maybe he felt like the staff was going to be super loyal to them and not say
Mhm.
anything. And then it's like, no, they're talking to the police.
So again, I think he wants to be put on a pedestal that because he's rich.
Hmm.
He says in this situation, he's like, I've been upfront with you guys. I've been telling you guys this, but if you guys keep treating me like this, and the officers are like, we're doing a murder investigation. And he
Hmm.
brings up, I don't want to have to call my lawyer. My lawyer's paid for the uniforms on your back.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
name dropping,
Hmm.
trying to throw his weight around.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, no. And so in that whole situation, yeah, they brought up his boat was left out. They talked to his staff, and then Tag is kind of playing down his relationship with Merritt. He says they've been only dating for a couple months and that she wanted more.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
they're like, okay, is that all you're telling us? Like, is that all you have to say? You don't have anything else to tell us? And
Yeah.
I feel like he continues to omit that Merritt was pregnant, and we all know the officers know that she was pregnant.
Right.
Everyone knows that she was pregnant, but Tag doesn't know that everyone knows that she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And then
Um,
again, Carl enters, the other officer. I feel
hmm.
like he's always popping up
Yeah.
while they're in these meetings, and he brings Tag a coffee and offers him a donut.
Yeah. Carl's just like a little funny little side character. But yeah, he does always just kind of pop up and usually he has like some new information or something
Yeah.
to give
I
them.
can't I don't know if Carl is maybe funneling information to Greer possibly, or if he just keeps popping up like just doing his job and I'm reading too much into it.
Yeah. Hmm. I don't know. I feel like he's just one of those people that's like he's part of the police force and
Hmm.
they're obviously doing like the bulk of the things, but he's going to be
Hmm.
significant in the sense that he's
Yeah.
kind of following up on whatever big stuff they need him to kind of like look
Hmm.
into, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. We'll maybe we'll learn a little bit more about Carl. So let's like jump forward a little bit
Hmm.
to one of the moments where Greer were at her party, her book launch party, and the who's who is here. You know, different
Hmm.
important people, her publicist, all these fans are here. And there's like a little moment, and she tells the publicist, like, I'm going to announce a new direction for,
Hmm.
her book series.
Hmm.
And it was like the end of the series, which we all know this
Hmm.
is how Greer is making her money is from her books. So it's like the fact that she's going to end the series. And we also know, like in the very first episode, she kind of alluded to wanting to take it a different direction and not really focus it
Right.
on the love of the two main interests. What if
Yeah.
there's just a different angle? And this is kind of like her little hint that like she's about to make that announcement, like here at this party, and everything is about
Hmm.
to change.
Everything's about to change. Yeah. She's like the characters. She's like Dash and Dolly's going away party, and that's going to be the last novel.
Hmm.
Well, this is going to be the last novel.
Yeah.
But so
And
right before the party, Merritt walks in on Abby packing up Merritt's room. I
Amelia.
mean, sorry, Amelia walks in on Abby packing up Merritt's room. And I
Hmm.
feel like Abby made a statement like, um, so Amelia looks at the like caution tape on the door, and Abby's like, don't worry. She's like, they won't arrest me because I'm white, because I'm a white woman. They're so gross. And
Yeah.
I'm like, she just has these one-liners that are so interesting to me.
Yeah. That one was an interesting moment. And then she also was like telling Amelia that she did like admire like the friendship that her and Merritt had. And basically this is like where we learn that like everybody knows that Amelia and Shooter kissed because she's like, oh yeah, everybody knows what happened. And
Hmm.
Abby's saying like she was looking forward to, having a sister-in-law and having like an
Hmm.
ally in the house, you know,
Hmm.
that can just be by her side and not have to essentially like go up against everybody alone.
Hmm. And that's what I was thinking too in the last episode, in the last couple episodes. I'm like, I felt like Abby wanted to bring her in, but she also wanted to kind of be a little like, superior to her. Like she
Hmm.
wanted to show her and lead her in a sense, but she also wanted to be like, I'm still top tier
Yeah,
above you. But she did
I was
still
here
want her
first.
as an ally. Yeah. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we kind of like get a little, this is kind of part of Abby's development. We're kind of seeing
hmm,
Abby be a little more, what is it, like humanized, I guess?
personable,
Yeah, personable.
connecting.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
and she tells her she'll accompany her to the party. Like she's trying to make her feel comfortable. Like, yeah, let's go to the party. Like, yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna take you.
Yeah. She's like, girl, go ahead and go. Do not let these people scare you out of
Right.
going to this party.
Which I
Um,
thought was really sweet
I thought that was
and
too.
endearing.
And at first, I kind of was thinking, like, is there like a little ulterior motive to her,
Mm-hmm.
like wanting her to come?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, is something
Mm-hmm.
about to happen at this party, like to embarrass Amelia or something?
Probably if it was like a different show or something, yeah, it'd be probably very Mean Girl. But it's like it's just Abby there. She
Yeah.
doesn't have a whole posse.
Yeah. And so this kind of ties into going back to the
Hmm.
party. Abby and
Hmm.
Amelia are kind of talking about the whole situation. And
Yeah.
Abby lets it slip that like Shooter's rich. She thinks Amelia already
Yeah.
knows this. And
Yeah.
Amelia's just like, wait, what? Like, he's
What? Mic
rich.
drop. Like what?
Yeah. And so Abby just basically explains like she doesn't know how he's rich or how he has the money. She just assumes that it's something related to like the Middle
Middle Eastern
East.
money, which
Yeah.
is probably racist as fuck, but
Right. Because I don't think he's Middle Eastern, right? I don't know what he is, but I thought he was like
we don't
Indian.
know. Yeah, she says Middle Eastern. I definitely thought that he was maybe Indian, but he's ambiguous right now. He could be anything right now in this series, but he definitely does look like he might be Indian.
Yeah. So that was like a
And
little
doesn't he
interesting
kind of have like a
tidbit.
French accent or even
I don't
London? Probably because of where they went to school.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I think he has an accent, but that's why I was thinking he was Indian.
Yeah.
Like, because I feel like it
His
leans
accent doesn't
more.
really sound
It's not like a
like
heavy, thick one, but it's like if you still grew up around people, but like, you moved away and you started kind of like losing it. But it's not like a super
his
thick
accent doesn't
accent.
sound Indian to me. It sounds like
Um,
English, like
well,
probably
we'll
where
have to
he went to
re-listen in the next
school.
episode. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like really listening because I'm like, wait, maybe it was. Maybe
His
it was. Maybe
accent
I'm
sounds
tripping.
English to me, like British English. But okay.
So yeah, we learned that about Shooter, and then the show continues on. And so we
Mhm.
have like another little flashback moment. Well, not really a flashback moment. Tag's back at like he's still in the police
Back
station
at the
and
police station
he's
conversations.
kind of like letting them know this is what happened that night. Like there was a couple glasses of rum, there were some cigars. He's talking about the
Hmm.
late night crew because the police know that he was part of the late night crew, which Merritt was also part of that late night crew. Isabel Nale was part of the late night crew, and I think there was one more person, right? I thought there was
It's
one more person they showed at the
Isabel
table.
the oh
There was
at
like
the
a
table it was
yeah.
just Isabel, Tag, and Merritt. And
Okay.
then we did see um what's her I wrote her name down.
Oh,
Gosha.
Gosha. Hmm.
Gosha was in the background watching
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. So, um, he's telling, police are thinking Tag might have drugged Merritt based
Mhm.
on her talks, report and everything. But, I
And
was
they're putting the
thinking
full
back.
court press on him. Like they're even letting him know that they're thinking this, which is crazy to me.
But my thing is like, okay, when last episode when we saw the tox report, it said
Mhm.
0% alcohol. So it's like, how
Yeah.
do y'all think he drugged her? Which they didn't say she didn't have any alcohol in her system to him, but it's like
Hmm.
we know based on the report that it was 0%. So it's like
Hmm.
I don't know if they were just using it as a tactic to see if he might like slip up and say something, but it was just like he wouldn't have been able to drug her with an alcoholic drink, which is what was around because she wasn't drinking. And she also didn't have alcohol in her
Yeah,
report.
but if she trusts him, it would be easier for somebody that she trusts, which she kind of trusts everybody around, for her to get drugged with any drink. We'll hand you any drink.
That's true. I guess
And
we just didn't
especially
really see
from,
her drinking.
we didn't see her drink anything really, but she, okay, we'll get to that later. But Tag and Greer and everybody knows that she's pregnant basically by this point. And so, because they've all offered her alcohol and she has not taken the alcohol. So, I think now, like, if somebody offered her a drink, if Tag or Greer has offered her a drink, they of course wouldn't give her alcohol. They'd be like, oh, do you want some orange juice?
Hmm.
Do you want some ginger ale?
Yeah.
Remember that cup was on the kitchen counter, had a little orange juice left in it that Abby
Hmm.
went ahead and cleaned. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Mm. I don't know.
But
I
also
just
they have a flash. No, I won't say that one yet. That's toward the end.
Well, I was gonna say,
But
yeah, I have it in my notes. There was that flashback, but we kind of touched on it a little bit as far as like the conversation they were having, between her and Tag, as far as like her being pregnant and the whole
mhm,
abortion thing. Um, and we see that, she obviously is very emotional. She's pregnant.
mhm,
He's not saying what she wants him to be saying. Obviously, she's been led to believe that they're going to be something. And he's basically now telling her he's being insane. He's being,
mhm.
like you said, Harmony, he's being insane and he's backtracking a bit.
Yeah, he does backtrack. And she's like, I just need you to say it like plain out. Like, are we doing this together? What are we gonna do? And he's like, what do you mean? Like, what's happening inside of you is so beautiful.
Hmm.
But timing,
Yeah.
the timing right now. I still have some truths that I have to get through. I'm like,
Yeah. My boy.
okay. And so I think she kind of storms off in that after that moment. But so Isabel and Benji have like an awkward conversation at the launch party. Like, Isabel's like talking about sex and like, it doesn't have to be fully over. Like, you guys can go have some hot makeup sex. This is like awkward conversations, Isabel.
Yeah, that was so weird. And like I was just like, why is she saying this to Benji?
He's like, okay.
Yeah. But I
And
mean, you know, the
I guess it
conversation,
was a little tidbit.
yeah. And so yeah, we have that little moment between Isabel and Benji. And Greer also, well, no. Let me backtrack. Let me backtrack. Because something we missed in the flashback that happened during this flashback was, like I said, I mean, not Greer, Merritt was getting emotional. So we kind of have a small little glimpse that she goes into the water and she's like, Tag's trying to go after her. She's telling him, don't touch, you know, how people can be when
Hmm.
they're emotional, like, don't touch me, get your hands off me, da, da, da. And that's like all we see. We don't see anything, more than that. And it's just like an emotional moment. And Tag tells the police that he and Merritt had an argument. Um, and he's sitting there just thinking and thinking and thinking, and he realizes like he's wearing, I'm pretty sure it's like an Apple Watch or something like that.
Right.
And he's like, this can prove that I was asleep by the time that everything that happened with Merritt happened. And
Yeah.
so that's just like that little moment, and then we're back at the book party, and Isabel is talking to, I can't remember who she was talking to. Was it Amelia? I think she was talking to Amelia.
Hmm.
And she basically is like, yeah, Greer hates both of us because we're real.
Hmm.
I was like,
And maybe
okay.
because you slept with her husband.
Yeah, maybe because she realizes, you're trying to be with her man and have been with her man.
Right. And
Um,
then in that same conversation, Isabel tells Amelia that she had conversation with Merritt on that night on the
mhm.
beach. And I think
Yeah.
we all really didn't know how deep the conversations that she was having. So I feel like she had like two separate conversations. Isabel had a conversation probably with her at the table
Hmm.
when Tag, Isabel, and Merritt were at the table inside. And then Tag gets up and is like, oh, who wants to go for a boat ride?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, nah, we're good. So Tag goes down to the beach and then um Isabel mentions, like don't wait for anybody to keep you warm. You got to keep yourself warm. And so that's when Merritt had went down to the beach and had that in-depth conversation with Tag. And he basically was like, he doesn't want to keep the baby. And she got upset. And like you said, she went into the water or walked away somewhere else. And then it jumps to her and Isabel having a conversation. And she's upset. But so yeah, Isabel and Merritt are having a conversation on the beach after she had a conversation with Tag. So Merritt's a bit upset. You can tell she's kind of been crying, like her mascara is running underneath her eye. And then what does Isabel tell her?
Isabel was like, the men never leave. You have to make the wife leave them by like any means necessary, basically.
And I'm like, dang, Isabel.
I'm like,
No
Isabel, should
fighting
you really
words.
be giving this advice? Because you want Tag and he has never left his wife. So,
Yeah. So yeah, that was that flashback. And then so we're back at the launch party. And so Shooter sees Benji and Benji just gut punch him, like punches Shooter. And Shooter just is like, okay, I guess I deserve that. I'll take it.
yeah,
He eats it and he walks away.
yeah. And Amelia, she's coming to kind of like Benji, like, whoa, like,
Oh my God. Benji's drunk.
yeah, Benji's drunk. And this leads to a little spicy moment because he's drunk.
Hmm.
She's trying to just get him out. She's like, listen, you need to
Give
drink
him
some
some
water.
water. Yeah.
You can't be out here acting like this. And he's just like, what did he say? Was he like, tell me what you want me to do or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a cute, spicy moment, but then it's also like, I hope he remembers all of this. I hope he doesn't like
Yeah.
be like the next morning, like I was drunk. Like, no,
Yeah.
because she kind of feels like I feel like feels like she's back in with him after that.
I don't know. I feel like because she does mention later like, oh, he was drunk and we like did kiss and yada yada.
Didn't she
So
tell Shooter they had sex? Like,
I feel like I think she told him they kissed. I don't think she told him that they actually like did the whole thing, but she might
Yeah, I thought
have.
she,
I can't remember which
yeah.
one. Um,
But so during they're hooking up in the back, Tag arrives to the party. Tag was released from the
yeah.
police station and he is making a grand entrance.
Yeah, and he's been drinking. He's been drinking on his way there. He like right before he walks in, he throws an empty flask into like the bushes or
Wild.
something. So yeah, he shows up, and then our boy Broderick Graham, we peep him in the crowd too,
Yeah. And Greer peeps him too. She like,
and
he's
Tag
telling a
peeps him
speech.
too.
She like security.
Yeah, she's like, I forgot what that dude's
Security.
name was. She's like, can we get some help up here? Like right
She
now.
was playing it off well. Like she's like saying this in between her speech on stage.
Hmm.
And then Tag is also walking up. Graham's walking up and she's like trying to keep it calm, saying her speech. She says that, this is going to be the last book and we're going to
Yeah.
go a different direction. And then Tag makes it to the stage and just shows his ass like,
I was here for this scene, honestly. Like I was here for Tag going up there because he like you could tell he was being drunk, but like also he's not like so drunk that he's not knowing what's happening. He's
mm-hmm,
like he says like some little comment where he's like he basically calls out Greer for like trying to set him up
mm-hmm.
with the
You're,
police.
I still love you, even though you're trying to set me up for murder, frame me for murder. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. And she's just like, "Oh, he's so funny." Like he yeah.
She's like clapping and like
Yeah.
everyone's jaw is on the ground.
Yeah, like what's happening? But then it like turns and everybody's like, "Oh, yay!" Because he starts talking about like their love and yada yada yada, and then he
He's a
like
mess.
he is a mess. He falls off the stage.
He goes in on Greer and then turns it into, I still love you and I'm never gonna leave you, even though you're doing this to me. Which
Yeah.
makes me think that like Greer has some serious, like she's done some serious shit.
Hmm.
I don't know if she's killed Amelia because I've been trying to stay away from what's happening with this show, but I'm hearing that there's some crazy twist, and I have no idea because I already think Greer has something to do with her murder. So I think what you've said it might be still good. Like Will probably had something to do with it.
I mean, I definitely think more now, like that Greer had some hand in it, and I know for sure we're gonna find out in the next episode, but
Yeah.
something that happened is what made me kind of like be like, okay, I think for sure Greer definitely had a hand
Yeah.
because
So over to the bar.
yeah, so before that, have a scene where like the police, the detective, and I think it was Carl, and they call like the police
Okay.
chief.
So the chief is at the bar. Greer walks up on the chief at the bar again and starts having a conversation with him at the bar. And from this, then he gets the phone call from
Right,
Carl and the other detective that pulls him away from the conversation with Greer.
right. But right
So,
before this, those two, they were looking at the sleep tracker data. And Tag has said like this will prove that like I was asleep. And they noticed that usually there's two people that the tracker is picking up on as being like asleep, but that
hmm
night it was only one person being picked up. So they're
hmm
like basically like, where's
hmm
Greer
hmm
during this? And so that's when we get to the scene that Harmony's talking about. And I'll let you go through that about like what he's finding out on the phone.
Right, right. So yeah, they find out the detectives were watching and reviewing his sleeping. And like you said, they see that every night that whole week, there were two people sleeping on the watch, that the watch picked up two sleeping patterns. And then that night, there was only one sleeping pattern. But could he have taken the watch off and it picked up only one sleeping pattern? But probably not, because I feel like he's trying to defend himself. So I think it's just his sleeping pattern.
Right. But then like while they're at the bar, what the police are telling the
Hmm
chief on the phone is like some information about Broderick Graham, our boy Broderick
Mm-hmm.
Graham that showed up at Greer's little book party. And so they say that Greer made a call from her office to a hotel the night of the murder at like 3 a.m. And the person who was staying in the room that she called was Broderick Graham.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, Greer is still sitting at the bar while the police is having this call. He's like walked away a little bit so he can like have them tell the information. And he's kind of like peeping and looking at Greer. And they tell him that Broderick Graham is like works with the Turkish
Yeah.
mafia.
Yeah. Some like lower level Aaron boy.
Yeah.
And just flew in like that morning before the murder.
Hmm.
And there also was a wire transfer to him
Yep.
of $300,000.
Hmm.
And who was the wire transfer from? None other than
Shooter
Shooter,
Devon.
Shooter
Yes.
Duvall. And we
Yeah.
know back in episode, I think two, he tried to talk to Greer about that money.
Yes. And the police also say that like the Turkish mafia and Broderick Graham, it's like they're running heroin out of Mumbai. Now, mind you, we're saying shooter, we believe is Indian,
Mm-hmm.
Mumbai.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like now I'm thinking like, what does shooter have to do with the drugs? Because we
I
know
missed
that
the
the
piece of
family,
Mumbai.
yeah. And we know the family always has like little pills and stuff around.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, is there some type of connection with like shooter and why he's rich? Like maybe his family
Mm-hmm.
or somebody like
Mm-hmm.
dad or somebody in his family has this
Mm-hmm.
connection and it's all being tied together. I don't know how exactly it's being tied together as to
Mm-hmm.
why he's there with their family, but it's like
Right.
something is connecting here.
And why like she's taking him so much underneath his wing. Like, yeah, maybe she knows something or, continues the connection somehow
Yeah. So that was like
with
a
his
big
parents.
bombshell of
Mm-hmm.
information. And then we're seeing this and like Greer's walking out of the bar,
Mm-hmm. She
from
starts getting uncomfortable. She's like, okay, he on the phone too long. I'm just gonna leave.
yeah. And so we are left to assume that Greer must have something to do with this, and Broderick
That's why
Graham must have something to do with it.
that's too obvious though now to me.
Yeah. I know it seems super obvious, but she did also try to plant that little seed to the police chief when he was like
Mm-hmm.
asking about Isabel Nalay, and Greer's like, oh,
Oh
she's
yeah.
been in love with Tag for years, so maybe she
Mm-hmm.
did something to Merritt to eliminate the
Mm-hmm.
competition after she
Mm-hmm.
found out there's an affair. I feel like she's just trying to throw all these people like
She is.
in
She's very
into the
calculated. I feel like it's been her this entire time. But
yeah.
I'm like, I've seen it from jump. Like, is there going to be a different
You
twist to come?
did. You did.
But so then there's a flashback at the end of this episode, and Greer's looking out the window. I think
Hmm.
she's having a drink in the kitchen, and she's looking out the window, and she can look onto the beach, and she
Hmm.
sees Merritt walking on the beach. And does Merritt drop a drink right there? Does she? I think she breaks a glass on the beach right there.
So earlier when Isabel and her were sitting, Isabel's when they tried to do the cheers, her
Oh
glass
yeah.
broke, and so there was glass on the ground. So when Merritt was walking, I think she kind of stepped on a piece of the glass, and she kind of does like a little like ow situation, and
Mm-hmm.
then turns around and she says like hi, but we don't know who she says hi to.
Right. She turns around and she's like, "Oh, hi."
Yeah.
And she looks kind of like puzzled at who the
Hmm.
person is.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good wrap on this episode. Wait, there's a lot. I'm
Yeah.
excited for the finale.
Me too. So let's go ahead and get into our spoiler
Spoiler alert.
alert. All right, so for my spoiler alert, I recently watched that movie on Netflix called Rebel Ridge that everybody has been talking about. The lead actor is a man named Aaron Pierre, And there's also Anna Sophia Robb. If y'all don't know, she actually played in Bridge to Terabithia. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that movie back when it first
Okay.
came out. She was the girl that like died in the
Mm-hmm.
movie. And she plays Summer McBride, which is also an important character in this show. And then also another important character is Don Johnson. He plays the police chief. He was in Miami Vice and he was also in Django. He was Big Daddy. And, I feel like the rest of the cast is mostly relatively smaller and unknown. But it was a very good action movie. I liked the plot of it. Terry Richmond, he's the main character. He is trying to get some bail money to get his cousin out. His cousin got some trouble. He knows that his cousin is going, like, something's going to happen to him if he goes to prison, and something did. And now he's basically like
Uh-oh.
on revenge for like the police because the police are crooked.
Uh-oh.
So y'all just gotta watch it. It's on Netflix. It's trending. Definitely
Crooked
gonna be
Police. What was the name of it again?
Rebel Ridge.
That's all the time we have today. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit that follow button, like and share by clicking below, and subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm your girl, Harmony.
And I'm your co-host Yelly.
Make sure you come back and join us for more mystery, murder, and melanin. Bye.
Bye.